So, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Just to check, you're all here for the MScSAS, Sustainable Architectural Studies, yeah? Yeah. Great, thank you. I was expecting, we've got about 22 people on the course. Some of them are arriving late, but I was expecting about 16, 17 this morning, so they might be a little bit lost, but anyway. I'm recording this session, so I'm going to sit with my computer because the computer's recording my voice, okay? So that's, if you wonder why I'm not walking about, it's just so that it's recording me. Anybody who's not here, they can watch the recording later. Okay? So, this is the program for this morning. So we're going to have an introduction to the course. We're going to talk about the option modules. And we'll run until about 11 o'clock, maybe 11:15. And then we'll have a break. And then we'll come back and we'll run through till about 12:30. Okay? So, welcome to School of Architecture in Sheffield. Very pleased to have you with us. This is a picture of the Sustainable Architectural Studies course from 2 years ago on a field trip to Switzerland. And you probably can't quite see, but they're all smiling, they're all having a really good time. Okay? And I think that is really important, that for you to learn, you have to enjoy what you're doing. Okay? So I hope that throughout the year, I'm going to see lots of smiles from you. Okay? Not all the time, but a lot of the time. I won't smile all the time either, but we try and run a program where we have a good time, we interact with each other, we have some events, and hopefully you can enjoy as well as working hard and learning a lot. Okay, and yeah, welcome to the MSc in Sustainable Architectural Studies. Now, you will hear people in the School of Architecture, they call the MSc in Sustainable Architectural Studies, they call it SAS. Okay? So when you hear people saying SAS, they mean us. The MA in Architectural Design, everybody calls MAD. The MA in Urban Design, everybody calls MAUD. Okay? So just, you'll hear those terms. You'll hear people saying, Are you on the SAS course? Are you on the MAD course? That's what they mean. We also have an MArch course, a Masters of Architecture course, and that gets called MArch. And we also have a Masters in Digital Design and Interactive Built Environments, which gets called DIBI. Okay, so you'll hear those terms a lot. When you look in the postgraduate taught handbook, you'll see those courses are described there. Okay, this is half of the group on the SAS course last year, and this was taken on a field trip to Zurich. And as you can see, they're still smiling, even though it was about -3 degrees that day, but they're still smiling. Okay. Okay, so just to introduce ourselves a little bit. That's me on the left. I'm not smiling on that picture. I don't know why not. I think I'm trying to look very serious in that picture. Okay. So, and on the right is Sophie Pelsmakers. What we're doing this year, Sophie is joining the school in about a week's time. So she's a new appointment to the school, and Sophie will be taking over the running of the Sustainable Architectural Studies programme. But what we want to do to make that smooth transition is I will keep the responsibility of programme leader in semester 1, and then Sophie can gradually take over so that by semester 2 Sophie will be the person in charge of the course. Okay? We're really pleased to have Sophie joining us. If you Google Sophie, you'll find her. She's authored a really important book on environmental design. And she's just a really fantastic person, and we're really delighted to have her joining us. Okay? But for now, I'm the person in charge of the programme. Okay? Call me Aidan. Okay, you don't need to call me anything else. Some students like to call me Professor, but I'm not a professor. Just call me Aidan. Okay? Generally, in this school, we just go by first names. Okay? And that includes Professor Fionn Stevenson, head of school. We tend to just call her Fionn. You might want to say Professor Stevenson if you want to be more kind of formal, more polite. But generally, staff are quite comfortable with first names. And equally, we'll use your first names, and we'll ask you to let us know how you would like us to address you. Which name you would like to use. Okay. We sometimes get confused. People from different countries, their first name and their surname might be kind of used the different way around, but we'll just ask you to let us know how you'd like us to call you. All right? So, how to contact me? My preferred arrangement is if you could send me an email. So if you'd like to see me, send me an email, just briefly explain what you'd like to talk about, and I'll then arrange a meeting. Okay? And that tends to work best. Equally, you can just knock on my door. I'm on floor 14 over that side. My name's on the door. But if you're knocking on my door, I might be out, or even if I'm in my office, I might be busy with something. I might be preparing for a meeting. So don't be offended if you might see me in my office and I might say, sorry, I'm really busy right now. Can we arrange a meeting tomorrow? Okay. So, but feel free, knock on my door if you want. Okay. For urgent, anything urgent, that's my mobile number. Feel free to call me or send me a text message. Okay. I get emails on my phone anyway, so whether you text me or email me, it will come to my phone. If it's urgent, if it's an email, just mark it. Just put the title as urgent, and I'll know to look at it. All right. We tend to do a lot of communications by email in the school. Okay. Right. The MScSAS website. That's the address. If you want to just make a quick note of that, and we'll have a look at it. Okay. So the MScSAS website is just one online resource that we use in the school, and we tend to use it early on just as a simple place to put messages. So I'll put events on there, and it just is a simple place to put things. So if you have a look at the website, there's some information about some upcoming events on there. There's some interesting videos, and if you look down the right hand side, there's a little bit more information for you on there. So for example, PGT course information, you can download the handbook from there. The calendar, we do all of our events through Google Calendars, and the calendar is there for SAS. If you click on the button in the bottom right hand side, it will add it to your own calendar. Okay? Each of your modules will also have a calendar, but for more general course events, they will go into this calendar here. Okay. You've got a link to some references in here, just some useful sources of information, and you have a link to. Sorry about that. You have a link to our technical facilities within the school, which have their own websites. So if you click on those, that will take you through to the individual websites for the different facilities within the school. Okay, so it's just a simple place, it's just a very simple website just to put some information up. But have a look at that. This presentation will go up on the website, the slides will go on the website, and generally, you know, whenever we have a meeting, I'll put information, I'll put the slides up on the website. For your modules, the information from the module is accessed in a different way, and I'll explain that this morning. Okay. Okay, Muse. Sorry, that should say mole. Sorry, let me just change that. The university changed the name. MOLE stands for My Online Learning Environment, and this is the online portal that the university puts all of its material for your course. Let me just show you how that works. So if you go to the sheffield.ac.uk, go to the home page, and you've got on the left here, log in to Muse. So Muse, My University of Sheffield, I'm not sure what the E stands for, but anyway. So click on that, and you've all got a username and a password now, yeah? You've all got that. Log in, and at first you might think nothing's changed. The website looks exactly the same. But if you now look at the top here, you have My Services, and click on that. What you've then got, excuse me, you've got a list of some of the main services that the university offers in white. On the right-hand side in yellow, you've got a list of services that you've been accessing most commonly. But then if you click on View All Services, you have a huge list of all of the university's online resources. You won't need all of them, but that's where they all are. But if we just go back to the main services, on the left, you've got some of the key services that you will use. So the first one is Google Mail. If you click on Google Mail, then that brings you into your Google Mail browser. Okay, and you can access that through a web page. You can also import it. There's information how to import it into your phone if you want to access it through any other kind of email client. But that's very important. Google Calendar takes you to your Google Calendar, and yours won't look quite as cluttered as mine does. But this then becomes your calendar of events. And I will send you out Google Calendar invitations. So if I arrange a meeting, you'll get that in your calendar. Okay? And then the other useful one is Google Drive. Hands up if you've used Google Drive before. Yeah? A few of you? Yeah? Yeah. So, Google Drive is a fantastic service. You are allocated, I think, 10 terabytes of space. So that's 10,000 gigabytes of storage space. I think you'll find that's enough. Okay? Completely free to you. That's cloud storage space. It's completely secure. It's backed up. And I encourage you to store all of your work on Google Drive. Now, there are a number of ways to access Google Drive. You can access it in a web browser like this. And it's an online web browser. That's where you find your files. Okay, that's one way of doing it. You can also, if you look in the bottom corner there, if you install the Google Drive desktop app onto your Mac or your Windows PC, then what Google Drive will do is it will create a Google Drive folder on your computer, and then you tell Google Drive which folders would you like it to sync with your computer. You don't have to sync them all, you can just choose. What it will then do is any file that you store on Google Drive, it will immediately send it to your computer as well. So that if you were working offline, you still have those files on your computer. Okay? So what it means is you can use Google Drive just like a normal folder on your computer, and accessing it through a normal kind of Windows Explorer or Mac Finder. Anytime you save a file here, it's instantly sent off to the cloud onto Google Drive servers, which means it's secure. So if this computer was stolen today, all of my files are on Google Drive. So there's no concern about losing information. So it's really important because every year I have at least one student who comes to me and says, my computer broke down, my hard drive failed, it was stolen, I've lost all my work. Okay? And that's a complete disaster. If you've got it on Google Drive, it's all there. All right? You can also you can put Google Drive on your phone. So I could access any of my documents from my phone. So it's a really useful resource. And with the 10 terabytes of space that we've got, you can use it as much as you like. Okay? We also tend to use Google Drive. We share folders. So when you get into your studios, for example, we'll be sharing a folder with you all, and we can use that as a shared place for saving information. Okay. Just go back. Okay, mole. This one is quite important. If we go back to your services, you have mole here. Click on that. Mole is my online learning environment. And mole is where we put all information about your modules. So all the information about your courses go onto mole. And you won't have as many as I've got here, but you will see here a list of all the modules that you're studying. And if we go in, let's go and have a look at one of those. Let me think of one. So if we look at this one, Principles of Building Physics for Sustainable Design, which has a module code ARC6843. If we have a look at that, when you go into that mole site, there will be a module calendar. So that tells you when, let's do that by a week. So that tells you when all of your events for that module are taking place. Again, if you click on the Add Calendar, it will add it to your own Google Calendar. And then in that mole site, you have a number of resources for that course. You have a module handbook. So every module has a sort of 10-page document which tells you everything you need to know about that module. So it's really important, once you've chosen your modules, go onto Mole, download the module handbooks, read all the information you need to know about your modules. Everything is in there, from who's teaching it, what the learning outcomes are, how many credits there are, what the assessment procedure is. All the information you need to know is in the module handbook. Right, let's just go back. When you're in Mole, to go back, if you just click on the course content here. What you can also expect to find is resources for the lectures. And depending on the module, the lecturer may just give you the slides, there may be a video, there may be some additional resources to go with that lecture. And again, depending on the module and the lecturer, sometimes that content is available beforehand, and you can have a look at it before the lecture. Sometimes it's available afterwards. So if we look, for example, this is one of my modules here. If we look at the Daylight and Solar Design lecture, you actually have
So today we're going to talk about daylight and
a video recording.
This session will take probably about an hour
Of the lecture.
Or more.
And what you will typically have is the slides with the voiceover of the lecturer. Okay. And obviously what that means is, just stop that a moment. What it means is you can review the lecture again later. So if there's something that you didn't understand or there's something that you've forgotten, you can go back and watch the video again later. Okay? Depending on the module, not all lecturers will provide videos, but all lecturers will certainly give you the slides. So what that means is when you're sat in the lecture and slides go up on the screen, you don't need to copy down what's on the slide, because you'll be provided with that. Okay? If I just go back. Okay. Just go back to the beginning. What you also have on Mole is your submissions. And on the Sustainable Architectural Studies course, we do almost all of our submissions are done digitally. So we're not asking you to print out paper and physically submit it. We ask you to submit PDF documents of your submissions. And we've moved to this over the last few years for a number of reasons. One is it gives you more time, because you've not got to, when you've got a submission deadline, you've not got to stop work 2 days early to get that work printed out, because it's an online submission. It also saves you money because you're not printing. Okay. A big benefit I find is, particularly with design work, it means that you can be more flexible to make changes right up to the deadline. So if you printed it and your tutor was to say to you, I think you should change that arrangement of that entrance, and you've already printed it, you're perhaps reluctant to make that change. But with this being a digital submission, you can make changes right up to the submission date. Okay. The students over the last year have been really supportive of digital submissions. The other advantage it gives you is, for a written piece of work, we use a facility which is called Turnitin, and that's what this little symbol means here. And what Turnitin does is it takes your submission, it scans through the text, and it looks for similarities with other articles, books, journals, submissions. So it's there for two reasons. One is to make sure you've not copied somebody else's work. Okay? So if you found a really good submission from another university and you copied it and submitted it, Turnitin would know. Okay? So it would tell you. But we don't really use it so much for that. But what it is useful for is you can upload your work and it will tell you what the similarity is to other work. So for example, you might submit your piece of work, an essay, and it might come back and tell you 25% similarity, and it will show you where your text is the same as another text. Now that can be useful to you because it might tell you that maybe you're using too much information, too many words from a book. And it might give you a guide that you need to rewrite that, put that into your own words. It also might just tell you that you're not referencing properly. So what Turnitin will do, if you put text in quotations, it will exclude that from the search. So if you've properly referenced a source and you've quoted who has written that, that will not appear in the similarity check. If you've included that text in your main text as if it's your own work, Turnitin will tell you. So we use it partly just to help you to do the best work that you can. In the back of every module handbook, there's a section on plagiarism, and there's some guidance on how you should properly reference your work. Okay? So, the other thing you probably will find on MOL is, for most modules, the lecturer will give you some example submissions from previous years. So they'll give you some good examples so that you can sort of have a look at what did people submit last year, what kind of a standard are we aiming for, how are they formatting their submission, and that can be very helpful for you. Okay. Any questions on MOL? Okay. What you'll need to do, I wouldn't do it this week because you've not chosen your options yet, but probably from next week, go onto MOL and spend half a day looking at all the option modules and all of your core modules and have a look at all the content that's there. And there's a lot, so you will need to give some time to that. Okay? When it comes to making a submission, you'll be provided with guidance on how to do that, but really it's very easy. All you do is you click on the View Complete button here, and you put your details in here, and you just choose your file. So you find your file. Once you've found that, you click Upload, and that's it done. So it's really easy. Because it's a digital submission, the Turnitin will then log the time that you submitted. So obviously for us, it's very easy to see if a submission was late. Okay. Right. Module handbooks we've mentioned. Okay. Let's go now into core modules. So, what we mean by core modules is these are the modules that you have to take. And these are the modules that are very specific to sustainable architectural studies. Your overall program is composed of 180 credits. So to complete the Masters, you need to get 180 credits. And that's composed of various different modules. Most modules are worth 15 credits. One module is worth 30. And your thesis module is worth 60. And you get to choose 2 option modules. And I'll come to those in a minute. But these are your core modules. And these modules take place either in the autumn semester, so this is the autumn semester now, spring semester next year, or over the summer period next year. So these are your core modules, and I've got a little bit more information about these which we'll go through. But the key thing to note here is these modules are all worth 15 credits except for Sustainable Design Project 2, which is worth 30 credits, and Sustainable Thesis Project, which is worth 60 credits. And let's just have a look at each of these modules. So the first one, Building Environmental Simulation and Analysis. This is the module which I coordinate, and this module starts in week 2 of semester 1. So this one starts very soon. And in this module, I introduce you to a range of software skills to enable you to perform environmental simulation and analysis. And that ranges from daylight simulation, wind flow simulation, thermal simulation, solar radiation simulation, a little bit about water use simulation. So it's a largely kind of skills-based module. The submission is a report where we ask you to perform simulation and show the results. This module is often very useful because it then helps you with your design studio work later on. Okay? In the first session for this module, I'll explain about software. I'll explain about where you can get hold of software. I'll talk about the computers that we have in the School of Architecture. Okay. Renewable energy. This one takes place in semester 2, and Sophie Pelsmakers will be coordinating this. And the module will look at an overview of renewable energy possibilities, and it will also introduce some technical skills for assessing the viability of renewables, and to allow you to implement renewable energy into your design work. Principles of Building Physics for Sustainable Design is another module which I coordinate, and again this module begins in week 2 of semester 1. So this is another module that you'll be starting very shortly. In this module we talk through the principles of building physics for sustainable design. So we're not going to go into sort of engineering level building physics, but we talk through principles and understanding so that you can understand how a building is performing, and that will help you in your design studio. Then we move into the design project modules. So there are 2, the Sustainable Design Project 1 and Sustainable Design Project 2. And these are the 2 design modules where you'll be asked to choose a design studio. So there'll be one studio run by myself, one studio run by Sophie. Those will be introduced to you, and you can choose which of those studios you want to base yourself in. You then will be introduced to a number of research methodologies and design methodologies. You'll be given a project brief, you'll have a project site, and you can start to engage with sustainable design. The studios will normally have a field trip, which is normally in about January or February, which often we go overseas, but it doesn't have to be overseas. And often the students find the design studios are the more kind of lively part of the program, because you're working with each other, you see your tutor every week, you're designing, you're creating things, as opposed to the other modules which tend to be more kind of lecture based with assignments. Okay. Sustainable Design Project 2 is 30 credits. So this is semester 2, and it's an opportunity really for you to take those skills that you've learnt in semester 1 and to start to apply them. And I'm going to show you some example work at the end of the session, just to show you the kind of work that students do in the design studios. And the Sustainable Design Thesis project. So this is a 60 credit module. This is the big module that you do. And most of this work is completed over the summer. So over the summer period 2016. Because obviously your program is a year-long program. Some of our undergraduate programs, they only run for 2 semesters, so they have a summer vacation. But I'm afraid you don't get a summer vacation on this program. Okay. Normally students take 1 or 2 weeks off, but you don't get the full summer vacation. I'm afraid you have to work. The SAS students from last year have only just finished, so they submitted 2 weeks ago, and they've now left. But it is a full year's course, this one, okay? Because it's a master's. It's not a BSc. It's not a bachelor's course. It's a master's, and that does need the full year of study. So, for the thesis project, and you will be explained in much more detail later on, but what you need to do is you will choose your own topic. So you'll start to think about what you want to explore in detail and what you're interested in. And it's a large piece of work where you then go and conduct research into that area. You'll be allocated a supervisor from within the school, who will be somebody who is a specialist in that area. There are 2 types of thesis projects. We have a written thesis project, and that's a kind of traditional dissertation. So it's a 10,000 word written dissertation. We then also have a design thesis, which is quite a new development. And in the design thesis, you explore research through design. So you actually engage with a design project, and then you have to reflect upon that in a design report. And this often is very popular with students who are more interested in design, because it allows them to engage with research by design. Anyway, you'll be explained in much greater detail by Sophie, but that's just a brief overview. But what I would encourage you to do is, right from the first day of week 1, start thinking, just keep thinking what you might want to study as your thesis. You don't need to decide yet, but just start to think about what are you most interested in. And I will make available the submissions from this year so that you can have a look at what people have done before. Sorry. Okay, option modules. This is where you need to make a decision. Okay. Now, what I will say before I get into the detail here, we're going to have individual meetings Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So I'm going to sit down with all of you individually to help you decide on your option choices. You don't have to decide until next Wednesday, and we will have that chat beforehand. But what I'll do today is give you an introduction to the options, and you can go away and have a think about that, but then we'll discuss it next week when we meet. Okay. Right. You have, in the SAS course, you have 2 routes. Now, bear in mind that the course is 180 credits. The 2 option modules are only worth 30 credits in total. So the option modules are actually quite a small part of what you do. So you don't need to be overly concerned about what options you do, because it's not the major component of your course. But even so, you have to make a decision. The 2 routes, as we call them, the first route is what we call the materials route. And what this means is that the 2 options that you would choose are both options about materials. And the first option is Materials for Low Impact Building Theory, and that's followed up by Materials for Low Impact Building Practical. In the theory module, you're learning about the theory and the principles of material choices and the implications of those material choices. In the practical, you actually start to build with materials, and you build one-to-one scale models of parts of buildings. So the first module is theory, it's all kind of written. The second module is making. Okay, so that's our kind of materials route. If you choose to go down that route, you take both of those modules, and that's your choice. The other route is a slightly more mixed route. We call it digital stroke regeneration, but really it's just a slightly more mixed route where you make different choices. If you go for the route B, you can choose any 2 from this list here, with a few restrictions. 6818 and 6821 can't both be chosen because they both happen at the same time. So you have to choose one or the other. And 6819 can't be chosen with 6, 8, 7, 4, because again, they happen at the same time. So those are the only restrictions. And just to be clear, elements of Computational Design 1 and elements of Computational Design 2, they're actually different modules. You can take elements of Computational Design 2 even if you have not taken Computational Design 1. So they're not sequential. They don't follow on from each other. Slightly confusing, that. Okay. I'm going to give you now a little summary of the different options. Just to clarify what you will need to do, I will give you one of these forms and you'll record your choices on here, and you need to hand that in next Wednesday to the General Office. But don't hand it in until we've had our meeting next week to discuss it with you. Okay? Yeah, how do you choose an option module? You might think, what do I want to specialise in? Am I particularly interested in materials? Am I particularly interested in digital design? Or you might just choose something that you want to learn that's new to you. So, for example, last year we had some students who had never done any kind of parametric design, so they chose that module just because they thought it would be interesting and they wanted to learn something new. It wasn't particularly a sort of career choice, but they just were interested. Okay. So, a brief summary of the modules. Parametric architectural geometry. Obviously, I'm going to make these slides available to you. You can read this yourself. I'm just going to summarise it. In architectural parametric geometry, you'll be taught the skills of working digitally with parametric forms. I believe this is done using Rhino, Grasshopper, and Dynamo. And you'll be taught the skills that you need, and this will allow you to start to work parametrically. Okay? We've had good examples in the past where students have taken this module and they've used it very effectively in their studio. The emphasis we place here is when we're not really interested in parametric design just to make shapes. Okay? A lot of architects for many years have been making shapes with parametric design. The focus here is much more on performance. And so you'll be linking your parametric design to elements like shading design, energy performance, possibly wind flow, so that you're using those skills to make a building which is performing better, not just to make a building which looks sort of cool. Okay? Building information modelling, management and analysis, in summary, is using the kind of data-rich environments that a BIM module, building information modelling, offers you. And the kind of distinction that a BIM model, is three-dimensional, but also it has information. So it has material information, it has performance information. And again, linking that to environmental design. So for example, this was a project from last year where the shading device on the building was linked back to the solar radiation of the site. So that you've got a shading device which is very well optimized in terms of minimizing overheating. Both of these two modules are led by Dr. Tsung-Hsien Wang, who's one of our digital lecturers. And both of them are a mixture of sort of lab-based sessions when you're actually working on the computer and more theoretical lectures. Okay, Materials for Low Impact Building Theory. This module is delivered by our head of school, Professor Theon Stevenson, and, as it says here, a critical analysis of a range of materials for low impact buildings. So it's looking at the materials that we can use in buildings which are particularly low impact for our environment and for the planet. And there's very kind of in-depth theoretical understanding given, as well as some practical skills for how you evaluate the materials in your project. There is a field trip to somewhere in the UK. I'm not sure where it is this year. Then, Materials for Low Impact Building Practical, which is delivered in semester 2, is the module where you actually make. So as you can see in the picture here, these students are making a one-to-one part of a building. And you will design that yourselves. You'll have to make it, you'll have to source the materials, and then there's also a critical reflection where you have to do a little written piece of work to reflect on the making side of it. So students enjoy it, they get in the workshop, they get their hands dirty, they make things. Okay. Elements of Computational Design 1 gives an introduction with a conceptual and practical background to computer programming using primarily Python. You'll be given the skills to start to work with data and to learn some programming skills. Now, the emphasis this year, as I understand it, by using Python can be linked into design software. So you can link it into Revit, you can link it into other simulation software. So again, this is not just about programming for the sake of it, but it's about how you can use programming to help your design and to improve performance. Elements of Computational Design 2, as I said, just to be clear, you may choose this even if you're not choosing Computational Design 1. Provide students with a conceptual and practical introduction to elements of computational design drawn from data and information processing, physical computing, and mixed reality modeling. And you'll be introduced to Python and Arduino programming. Mixed reality modeling, if you've never come across that, is where you're combining the elements of a physical model with a digital model. And we've got a mixed reality suite, which is a piece of equipment which allows you to you can interact with your digital model through a physical model. So, for example, you might have a model of your building here, and as you move around it, the digital model is also being navigated. So it's kind of a very new area of research in the school, and this is led by Dr. Tsung-Hsien. So I think what you start to understand with the option modules is some of these are kind of very cutting-edge research-led. Like this one, for example, it's all very new, and I think nobody's particularly clear how they will apply it yet, but it's kind of a really interesting area of research. Some of the option modules, like say Materials Practical, is quite kind of straightforward. You're making models, you're trying materials. Conservation and regeneration principles and approaches. In summary, you'll be looking at the history and the skills of working with existing buildings. In the UK, we work a lot with existing buildings. Most of the buildings that we will have in 30 years' time, we already have. And there's a huge effort in the UK and in Europe to work with those buildings that we have, to make them energy efficient, to upgrade them, and to give them a longer piece of life. So this module looks at all of the kind of theories and approaches to working with existing buildings. And that could range from kind of very significant historical buildings through to just very normal buildings, just very kind of, run-of-the-mill buildings. Okay. And this is the assignment is an essay for this one. So your forms you need to hand in to the general office. So sorry, it's Wednesday, not Tuesday. Wednesday, that's wrong. Let's change that. Wednesday. Okay. So you've got a little bit of time to think about those. You can download the module handbooks. You can download the PGT handbook. There's information about the modules in there, and you can review these slides again to help you make that decision. And then we can discuss it next week when we meet. The PGT module handbook, you can download it from the SAS website. You can also find it from the School of Architecture page. If you go to downloads here, there it is. Download that. It's full of very useful information. I would advise you to read it all. There's a lot of words, but it will tell you everything you need to know. It tells you what to do if you're ill. It tells you how work is assessed. It tells you about holidays. It just tells you everything you need to know for this course. Okay, so, just go through and read it all. Right. We will take a short break, but has anybody got any questions they want to ask me now? Okay. You can always ask me at the end. All right. Let's have a 15-minute break. Come back at 11:30. Has everybody found that there is a cafe in the basement? Yeah? I sometimes forget you're all new to Sheffield and to the School of Architecture, and you'll have to remind me if I say things to you like, I'll meet you in the media unit. Just remind me and say, look, I don't know where the media unit is. Okay? But yeah, most important, you can get coffee in the basement. You also have, let me get this right, you have a student kitchen on floor 16. I think that side of floor 16 is a kitchen for student use. You've got a kettle, a microwave, a fridge. It's yours. You can use it how you wish. Okay? Right, back at past.